Hello and welcome to this webinar hosted by Greenstone, where we will be looking at the value and impact of Supplier Codes of Conduct. I am Gyles Scott-Hayward, the head of SupplierPortal at Greenstone, and I'm delighted to welcome Rachel Lander and Colleen Theron as speakers on today's webinar. Rachel is Director of Teaching and Learning at the University of Westminster and is also working extensively on sustainability projects and goals for the university. Colleen is CEO of Ardea International, a partner of Greenstone and a specialist sustainability business and human rights consultancy. So both very knowledgeable on the subject we'll be tackling today, which is the effective creation and use of codes of conduct by organisations. Firstly, so we just run through the agenda. Firstly, Rachel will be providing an introduction to the code of conduct itself, what they typically cover and what they can achieve in terms of positive impact throughout the supply chain. I will then look at the challenges faced by organisations when implementing a code of conduct, from distribution and monitoring to supplier engagement and driving improvement. Colleen will then look at the legal basis of a code of conduct with regard to how it can help the organisation itself meet its legal and reporting requirements, and indeed what power it has to hold suppliers to account. Lastly, we'll have an opportunity to discuss any questions that you might have. So if you do have any questions, please enter them in the box provided in your webinar toolbox there on your screen, and do that at any point in the webinar, and we'll come to that at the end. So without any further delay, I'll pass you over to Rachel to begin her introduction of Supplier Codes of Conduct.
So there's the University of Westminster. I'm actually on site, and I'm going to be talking to you about the project from my perspective. I've put my contact details, but those, I think we'll all be sending our contact details out after the event. As Gyles said, I'll be running through sort of basic introductions and motivations for supplier codes, a little bit on definitions and usage and effectiveness. But I wanted to finish by letting you know more about the university role in the project and the white paper, and how we're using the research, particularly in my interest is in using it in learning and teaching. And as we have so many business sustainability people in the audience, I will at some stages be asking for your help. But I was going to start with just say, you know, the supplier codes of conduct are always relevant. This was from Monday. So Apple having to reprimand their supplier and threaten, I think, I haven't followed the story after Monday, but they're certainly threatening to drop Pegatron. And we know that they've had problems with Foxconn. So it's just reminding us all that these problems are that they're endemic for businesses, and it's not just international. There's not just problems in countries. We've got our own homegrown example in Leicester with the scandal over Boohoo and the garment sector there, and workers' rights and infringements in that sector. So I think to remind us all about the development of codes of conduct, I mean, there was significant work that you'll see in our white paper on the United Nations work around this, but in the academic literature, it's the scandal reporting in businesses that led many businesses to more properly engage with developing codes of conduct. And so this is a snip from one research paper going back to the 90s, but the table goes on and on. And I think a lot of us know the stories. We've got the problems with Nike there, the problems with Adidas, going on to the problems with Primark, the problems with incidents in the catastrophe in the Rana Plaza disaster in Bangladesh. And we know that these issues keep happening. So there is pressure because of the business consequences on companies to develop pretty good codes of conduct, so codes of conduct that are fit for purpose and that can be properly monitored. I think the other thing is it's very difficult to get the balance right. And I was going to illustrate this is there's some research into the most ethically perceived brands, and you've got them there by country. So there's what everyone is saying in these countries. These are the really good brands. They're getting it right, and they're really good practice. And then if you then think about perceptions of companies that have got it wrong, you have exactly the same companies appearing in the lists. So I think this reminds us that even when you develop a very good best practice code of conduct, that's not the end of the story. And that's part of what Gyles will be addressing in the issues around implementation of these codes of conduct. And it's just something to remind ourselves of, that in the white paper we can talk about, or we discuss the roots of it, we give best practice, we give examples, but in actual practice I think there's always several challenges for companies.